Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all doing excellent. Today we're going to start things off a little bit differently. Jeff's getting the FD uncovered.
With an FC shirt on.
With an FC shirt on.
Shameless FC shirt plug.
More to come on that. I'm going to turn the Christmas lights off. We're heading out to the last car meet of the year, probably. And gonna walk around there, see what's what. Got my mask. And enjoy the day. We're not taking the FC because brakes started to act a little funky, so we're going to be working on that a little bit later, and some of the projects to get the FC, the right-hand drive FC, ready for the high horsepower motor swap. So I'm here in the FD, taking it for a little spin to this car meet this morning. Look at that mirror. Huge Broadway mirror. Jeff's back there in the Z. He's waving. He sees me filming. So yeah, nice brisk morning. Hopefully a nice showing because there were some really cool cars last time. This time, of course, we're in lockdown again in California, so who knows how many people feel comfortable coming out, but we'll be responsible and we're outdoors, so we should be safe. God, I love this car. Like that? That needs to be fixed.
There's the real uniform.
This one wins the car meet. Well, that meet is always super nice to go to. It's such a diverse scene, so many cool cars, and you see a little bit of everything. So classic JDM, new JDM, domestic, hot rods. You saw the GT40, that Ford, so that's really cool. But anyway, I did want to take the FC. Yesterday, I got ready to do the usual fuel up and wash like I do every weekend. And I went in and pushed the brakes, and the pedal went all the way to the floor. And I was like, no, that's not good. So I parked it obviously immediately, and I took a look at the brake fluid reservoir, and it was all the way below minimum, which is obviously concerning because that brake fluid went somewhere when it was full. So right now I filled it back up again, and I'm going to pump the brakes a bunch of times, about to get the wheels off. I've got it jacked up already just to see if I can find a wet caliper. I already checked underneath the brake master cylinder here. There's nothing there. There's nothing at this proportioning valve. There's no sign of any brake fluid up here, so I'm just going to chase it all four corners and chase the different connections and hopefully just find a loose fitting. All right, well, we're both pretty stumped. We refilled the brake fluid, kept pumping. You could hear air sloshing around in the system, and then we couldn't get it to show any signs of leaking anywhere, so we decided to just bleed the brakes. Bled all four corners. We have a nice firm pedal, and everything's dry as a bone. The level isn't changing. There's no air going back into the system. The pedal is remaining firm. So, I don't know.
It's one of those mysteries.
The only thing is, every junction in the brake system you can see except one that's up above the differential that proportions the two rear brakes. So I am going to jack out the back a little bit higher and see what's what back there. But aside from that, there's nothing else I can think of. So we did go ahead and spray everything off with brake cleaner, just so that it's dried. So if we see anything anywhere on the calipers or bleeder screws or anything like that, we know
That's the culprit.
that's the culprit. Yeah, so just gonna keep an eye on it. It's one of those things. It's really weird. The other option, of course, is the master cylinder, but we tested that pretty extensively, and yeah, it's just weird. Well, anyway, today the project that I'm working on to get ready for the engine swap, I can do while the car's sitting here up in the air, so I can keep an eye, see if I see anything weird. But I'm going to be relocating the battery to the storage bin behind the passenger seat. So I did it behind the driver's seat in the other FC, so I already have all the parts. So I'm going to go ahead and grab those and bring them over here so we can do this switch. Why do I need to do that? Because we need this space up here, first off. We're not going to be passing intercooler piping down here. However, we are going to need to pass intercooler piping here to get to the V-mount. And also, I need to run some bigger fuel filter, the IDF 750. And with keeping all the stock equipment and everything, there's not much room, so I'm going to probably be mounting it right up here. And again, these coils are not going to be here. We're going to be using IGN 1As. So anyway, going to go ahead and grab the supplies for that and get to it. Okay, so I was able to get underneath the car and inspect that last junction in the brake system. Nothing there. So the only thing I'm really afraid of is it is a leak from the rear of the master cylinder, and it's going into the brake booster possibly. So gonna keep an eye on it. I'm also gonna see about sourcing a master cylinder, see if the US one is the same as the JDM one. But anyway, for right now, we're gonna relocate this battery. So what I have right here, this is the stock battery tray from the front of the FC, the other FC, and what I've done is usually there's these contours that come down and bolt in, cut those flat. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take it and we're going to put it right back here. We're going to drill a hole here and drill a hole here, pass some bolts through. To ground the battery, we're going to use the seatbelt hole with this nut here. This bolt rather, that goes through there. And then on the other end of this bolt, we're going to pass the wire all the way up to the engine. So it's grounded to the chassis and the engine. And then for the positive lead, we're going to go through this grommet hole. We'll actually put another grommet in there. I've got some spare ones. And we'll run it down underneath into a power junction block into the engine bay. So in the engine bay, what we're going to use is this big beefy power junction. So we're going to take this, we're going to put it somewhere down here where the battery was, probably here, say, and then we'll be able to take our stock power from the battery right there, bolt that to here, take a lead from our alternator, run it to here, and then we'll ground this negative terminal to the chassis somewhere. Time to get drilling. Always get a little paint when you've exposed bare metal to cover things up. Apparently we're out of Q-tips at my house, so I'm just using a little barbecue skewer. It's working all right. And then we'll move on to running some wires. Okay, now to wire everything up, I got this big bundle of welding wire. So welding wire is not for melt, is not the metal you melt, not like a filler rod, but it's this nice finely packed wire. This is 0 gauge wire, and then these are the old wires I used. I used one 0 gauge from Install Gear, which is great, but you can see they got melted in the fire. So can't use this exact one, but what we can do is use it for a gauge on length, and I think this power wire, we might be able to reuse some of it. We're going to use some P-clamps to hold it in place underneath the vehicle. And I already got, for my grommet kit, nice grommet stuck down in here to get that power wire going through here to the engine bay. So let's start running some length, I guess. Okay, so I've been fiddling around with these big wires. Got my power lead right here. Went perfectly through that grommet. Just use a little WD-40 to squeak it through there. We've got our ground strap on that side as well. That bolt goes through to this wire here. Nice in there. I've been flowing in lots of solder using the butane torch. So now we can get our tray installed. Paint we painted earlier has dried sufficiently. Boom. So get this out of the way. Get that to behave. And okay. So we get the bolts to go through there. Okay, that was a little too hard with just one hand, but basically, as you can see here, that's going to bolt our tray down, throw some bolts in underneath, and then we're one step closer. As you can see from the view behind me, it's been a while, but good progress. So got the power wire run all the way up along the frame into the engine bay here. Now this mounting is just temporary zip ties just because it fits so perfectly, and we're not sure what's going to go on down here when we remove this and we have to mount everything. But just to get, there's plenty of slack here. I have it kind of looped around weird because I don't want it to touch the belts. But I got to the point where basically we're ready to finish this, but I don't have, for this gauge wire, the right ends to get the power wire spliced onto a O-ring connection to go right on here. And then the last step is to get the alternator charging cable ran around and attached to this as well. So this is not live. There's nothing there. There's nothing at the end of that red wire. It's just open. So I will go ahead and cover it with the little cover that this power junction box comes with. There we go. Just screw these on there. And that's how she's going to look when she's all together. The final deal, once we get the connectors, this wire is going to go here, this wire is going to go to the chassis, move the battery, and then we're done. Alright, so just in case some of you are yelling at the screen right now, I am not just going to leave the brakes to chance. So I drove it just around the block to park it, and it was clear that the pedal does not feel right, even after bleeding the brakes. So I came in this morning and got the inspection of the brake master, and the fluid level is down even ever so slightly, but that's just even after driving around the block. So at this point I'm going to double check the calipers, but I'm pretty sure we have a brake master issue, possibly the seals inside. And of course I looked around and the right hand drive master cylinder is different, mostly just the location of where the brake lines attach for the front brakes. So my plan is pretty simple. All I'm going to do, or at least try to do, is I got a brand new Napa brand, which is the only one I could find, USDM brake master, and I'm gonna try and take the guts out of this one and see if I can just, if they match what's in the right hand drive one, and then just swap the internal seals and assembly, and then see if that'll get us running. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull the master cylinder, inspect it, pull the insides out, and see what we're looking at. I just got the brake master cylinder out, and let me show you what I'm looking at here. See all that rust down the brake booster? I mean, obviously it looks like brake fluid was leaking and stripped the paint and it rusted. Now for it to rust like that so quickly, I think it was a bit of an older problem, but maybe it was happening slowly over time and now it's just starting to get worse, because once a seal goes, it tends to continue to break down and get worse. So that's what I'm thinking. So I can show you what it looks like over here, and I already drained all the fluid out of it. Okay, there she is. But it seems to me that there's a bunch of crud in the bottom part here, so hopefully that's seal, because I need to find a smoking gun. If this isn't it, then I've got more problems. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and take this apart, see how the inside looks real quick. Okay, so here's our piston from the inside of the master cylinder, and the cup seals actually look to be in fairly good condition. However, this one here just has like a bunch of debris that seems to have gotten lodged in between the cup seal and the wall. So hopefully I can just clean this off with some clean brake fluid and put it back in, because the other master cylinder that I bought, of course, is not the right part, and all the ones off the F4 FC that I have in the back that I've messed around with and accumulated also are not the right part. So we're basically stuck with this one. But it looks okay aside from that, and it's hard to see in here on camera, but the bore looks nice and smooth. There's just a little bit of rust particulates that probably got dislodged from this area after it sat for a while and then got worked in. So I'm hoping cleaning this out will give me the results that I need, because I'm going to pop it back in, bleed these brakes, and give it a shot. So I did finish cleaning her up, take her out back, bled her on the bench, can barely press this in, and no leaks out the back. So time to go back in your home. Okay, just finished up reinstalling and bleeding all 4 corners with the master cylinder. I think that little bit of maintenance made all the difference in the world. So I have the best pedal feel right now that I've had since I got the car. So obviously that's not with the engine running and moving, but we'll test that a little bit later, hopefully. So let's finish up this battery relocation. That's what we came here to do anyway. Let's get this out of here. So I'm starting to prep the ends of the wires. They're looking great. Plenty of beautiful clear copper, no green corrosion or anything, which is nice. And actually, I'm not going to need to run a wire from the alternator to this block right now, at least, because this wire I've determined goes to the main fuse panel, and this one, actually I'm using this little tone tester unit, and I can trace it. It gets a little faint, but when I come up here, I got the signal. So that means that is our alternator connection. So that makes things even easier. So I'm going to put a 10 gauge connector on there. I think this is a 4 to 6 gauge connector on here, and then I'll just get that ground taken care of. Right, so we got our terminal ends finished up. On these big ones, I was actually able to flow a lot of solder in there just by heating them up with my heat gun and flowing it in from the crimp on the back. So those connections are looking good. Now we're going to go ahead and pull out this battery tray and make our final connections. Here's what our final craziness looks like. So these are some accessories that I am going to actually pull through eventually and connect in the back engine, the back battery tray container where I'm moving the battery. But for right now, just to finish this up, I'm attaching them on here. Here we have our power supply for the fuse block and our alternator power supply. And this goes to our battery in the back, which we're about to connect. Down here is our ground wire, which I have tapped in here. I have gone ahead and clean out the threads on the bolt and the hole that this goes through on the chassis, so that should be good, but we're going to test that in just a moment. So now, let's throw this in the back. Moment of truth. Battery's mounted in here nice and solid. Got the positive terminal just sitting on here. The doors are ajar, So this light should light up if everything's connected correctly. Moment of truth. Oh, I heard some conductivity. And the light is on. But first, before I end, I'm going to go up front and check the voltages at the grounds and the connections we made, just to make sure everything's plumbed correctly. And then I need to start the car and test it with the alternator running, make sure the voltage goes up. All right, and as I mentioned, just to be thorough, I've got my positive lead right there where all the power should be in that distribution block. First, let's go ahead and test our ground location we've chosen for the stock battery connection. Oh, there we go. Looks like battery's a little low. Let's go ahead and check if we have power at our alternator location. Bingo. And let's check all these connections. Getting the same. Great. So now, last but not least, let's see if the remote starter's working. Oh, the hood's open. It won't start. Let's try that again. There we go. And we'll see if our voltage goes up. Now that 0L reading you saw as it was bouncing back and forth is because where I had probed to ground was coming loose a little bit with the engine vibrating. But we got the 14 volts that we're looking for from the alternator, which means the battery is getting 14 volts as well. So we finished yet another strenuous project on the RX-7 that shouldn't have been so strenuous, but this is just the reality of how things go when you're working on your car. Things change along the line. Not sure how to move forward, so you improvise and get it done. So it's time for me to clean up. It's time for me to go give this dirty girl a bath. And we'll see you again coming up soon. We're working very hard to get the engine swap done on this RX-7. So remember, please like and subscribe if you want more content. Stay kind to each other out there. And when they ask you, tell them you want more.